as a member of the Standing Rock Sioux and Dakota, yeah, he got it right. Come on now, Dakota Council for the Lakota People's Law Project took on DAPL, the connection between corporations and law enforcement. He has done everything to fight back, to connect the movement. Somebody make some noise for Chase Oilers!
Thank you all for that very gracious welcome. My name is Chase Iron Eyes. I'm from the Standing Rock Sioux. I am an attorney with the Lakota People's Law Project, and I ran for United States Congress last term. Thank you. We're in a, I live in a very red state, and I also live on the Standing Rock Nation, the Standing Rock Sioux Reservation. Me and our family, that's where I grew up. I live south of the pipeline now. So, it was built. We put up a valiant fight. Tens of thousands of people brought their time, their spirit, their courage, and their energy to join that fight. And for that, we want to say thank you, Lila Wopila Tonka Ichichapelo. We thank you. Just as that fight was a setback, if we were to be real, we are going to have to regroup. We have to look within ourselves and find courage rather than succumb to fear. The same kind of unpredictability that we felt when Trump won. I know you felt that. I was traveling in airports at the time, and people were dead silent on November 9th. We could not believe it. But you can never lose courage. That's where we lose the fight. The moment we decide not to stand up, every action, every energy that comes from our heart and soul is going to start manifesting fear instead of courage. I am one of 815 people who were arrested during the No DAPL struggle. I am facing 5 years in prison right now. And we have to make sure that not a single one of us goes down and goes to prison. What happened at Standing Rock resulted in an international spiritual monument that lives in our hearts and in our minds. And we have to transcend those human constructs, those classifications of race or color of skin or religion or whatever it is, because right now we are facing a corporate takeover of our democracy. Right. What we witnessed at Standing Rock, if you look at the leaks that have been coming out, we're talking about corporate sponsored, state executed violence against unarmed United States citizens, native nations, and everyone else from around the world that came to help. We are going to be forced to look within ourselves and ask, what is the source of our sovereignty? What is the source of our authority to be here in our country in the 21st century? Who is going to compel our country to value water, for instance? When you say Mini Wichoni, that carries with it a spiritual and sacred covenant. It has a connotation that speaks to your soul. And we've developed it over tens of thousands of years here. But this is all of our country now. That's right. And unless we make moves, we have to make power moves. This is part of the resistance, but we also have to think of the positivity and the constructive movement that we have to make happen. And it happens with you. We carry that forward from here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I was wondering, I have a question. I was hoping maybe Chase could comment on recent revelations on TigerSwan and private Blackwater-style security forces targeting protesters at Standing Rock.
Yes, thank you so much for bringing that up. I was actually on a family trip with my family. We took a long trip, so I was actually out on a boat whale watching when Intercept was trying to get a hold of me because my name had popped up multiple times in these documents that had been leaked to the Intercept. And in there, it details how, when I say corporate-sponsored, state-executed violence,
Right.
It's not just violence, it's a propaganda campaign. It's a very sophisticated and savvy effort to impact the public narrative. You know, even Trump saying things like fake news is part of that, you know, that force that is at work. But also, new revelations have come out, and you can see that they are actually engaging in agent provocateur tactics and lighting vehicles on fire. Even one of my vehicles was lit on fire during the protest that I was arrested at. And I don't know who lit that vehicle on fire, but the state is trying to imply somehow that that was at my behest. And so it's extremely important that we stay aware of the level. TigerSwan is run by and is kind of the child of actual Blackwater operatives who have experience in real life oil wars. An oil war took place here and is taking place in the middle of our country right now. So we need to be on top of it.
Definitely.
I know there are hundreds of water protectors that are currently facing those felony charges in prison, and I feel like those are really our warriors on the front lines, willing to sacrifice their safety, their freedom for us. And I want to just clarify if there's anything we can do while we've got this platform here to help support those water protectors and keep them free and keep them feeling like they're supported, because I have a mother that was a victim of the drug war, and I know it's really important, even if they do spend time in jail, to feel our support on the outside, that's extremely important. So I want to know if there's any resources that can connect us with those water protectors and make sure that they feel our support.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. You know, there are many, the front line is everywhere. And civil resistance is just one place where sacrifices have to be made. Sometimes, a lot of times, when we consider, you know, the source of what is defining the contours of law and order. Who does law and order serve? Law and order is not serving the people or the land or the water, which holds intrinsic sacred value. Law and order is serving capital and property. That's what law and order is serving right now. And so because of that, the arms and institutions of justice, which we are supposed to be able to rely on in our country, these are truths that are supposed to be held self-evident. Because law and order is serving capital and property, you have people in jail. And one thing you can do is go to lakotalaw.org, or just follow, I don't want to put a personal plug for my Twitter account, but I will, at Chase Iron Eyes. We try to stay busy. There's all kinds of people in independent media, independent sources who make these struggles evolve. And so thank you for giving us that little bit of time to talk about where we can, we're trying to work with everybody who's providing legal representation to 815 people right now, 40 of which are facing prison time, my relatives. So thank you.
This is going to be something we probably all disagree about a little bit, and I'm going to ask you a tough question, Chase. I wanted to ask you about the tension between direct action and political action, which I think is something that's being somewhat overlooked in this panel. So in the Ocheti Chicagoan camp, one of the biggest no-DAPL resistance camp, I felt a powerful tension between and misunderstanding about sort of what we were aiming to do. Were we aiming to stop the pipeline, or were we aiming to protest it in the hope that politicians would stop it for us? And on December 4th, which was sort of the height of the energy that I saw at Standing Rock, it was also the day that the Obama administration denied the easement. And in my mind, it was the beginning of the end. It was when the energy was sucked out of the movement, and a month later, the camps were much diminished, and the Trump administration, with a single stroke of the pen, put the pipeline through. So that, to me, demonstrates some of the frailty of political action. And I guess my perspective is that the real fight against fossil fuels will be on the ground in the form of direct action. And I'm wondering from you what we can learn from Standing Rock about how to navigate that tension.
Yes. Thank you. That's a very tough question, because it asks about what is your level of commitment? What is the level of risk that you are willing to take to protect the integrity and the sanctity of what you now, after 240 years of America, what we now, after 10,000s of years of developing and sacrificing for our cosmology, who are now considered Americans, we are all together in this. What level of commitment, what level of risk are we willing to take to protect our homeland? We in this room, even if it's just us in this room,
That's right.
need to be able to look at where you live and consider that your homeland. I want you to consider that your homeland. I want you to create a respect relationship with the very rivers and creeks and streams that flow through your homeland. That's what needs to happen. Otherwise, you get too big of a group and people's levels of commitment are different than some. My level of commitment was life, liberty, and whatever sacrifice I had to make. Because I lived directly south of the pipeline, and it meant the law and order that was being upheld meant that my children's right, their human right, their birthright to clean drinking water would have to be forsaken by me. And I was not about to let that happen. But the people in control at Standing Rock did not have that level of commitment. So when on December 4th a false victory was proclaimed and celebrated, that's exactly when I stepped into the movement. But what I saw was a slow death, as you pointed out. And we needed unity at that time. But we got pinched. As a nation, as a tribal nation, we were pinched. A long time ago, they would just withhold the rations that they had created a dependency on. And this time, they blocked the roadway, which brought in all of our disposable and discretionary income. So they pinched us a different way. And we ended up asking the very people we invited out to help us protect our water resources, we ended up asking them to leave. So in the future, if we were to take anything from that, is sometimes we have to let liberators, activists, people whose commitment level, as long as it's standing in the power of peace, it's not inflicting violence or aggression on the innocent. Sometimes civil resistance, different than civil disobedience, is a necessary part because we are facing something that is so powerful. It's now in the heart and souls of our youth in telling us, this is what you are to value. This is how you are to transport yourselves. These are the contours of your economic reality, which is being imposed upon us. But we have to figure out ways to liberate from that. Thank you.
That's right.